Hi, thank you for joining us on the fifth and final part of our review series. In this installment, we will be discussing everything else that you may have viewed in the videos. This is all the attachments, accessories, everything that comes with it, and even the mounting fixtures you'll see in the video will also be discussed and explained. First, I'm going to start with the cables. Some of the cables like this one here, which connects the controller to EDM head, you've seen already where it attaches, as well as a power cable. Extra cable that you have not seen attached is the work clamp cable. There's this one that fits over here. Do not confuse work clamp with ground. There is a significant difference, especially with the polarity switching, but I will explain that in detail in a later video. The work clamp cable is also a double screen cable, rigid nylon mesh around it just to protect it, and a heavy brass clamp. This clamp was designed so it can actually hold the wire. It can crimp to flat stock, to thin round stock, to thicker round stock, or to a big bolt or bolt head. This little brush holder is specifically designed in there, so if you want to use a rotor function without a jig or tool, you just want to slip a shelf through the hole, you can put a small brush in there. Off-the-shelf power tool brush will specify the size, and then you can run your rotor tool on there. This is obviously the work clamp cable. Next is the external control cable. This cable is for your RS-232 connection, and it's also your external input, external output. We will supply schematics of how to connect this as well on our website and on the final design. The external control cable plugs in over there. Since the rotor and pump and data and external control plugs won't necessarily always be used, we've supplied caps for those two plugs. Then over here, this is your pump and rotor control board with also its cable and plug on there. It supplies your fuse protection for your pump, your external power supply, and for your motor. This is the switch where you can see you have either external power or you have internal power. Internal power is 12 volt, so the internal power will then be routed to your stepper motor, or if your stepper motor you want to connect to here is, for example, 24 volt, switch it to external power, run 24 volt into this connector, will run through the driver and to your stepper motor. The built-in stepper motor driver can handle from 10 to 32 volt up to 4 amp. There's also an output for external stepper motor driver where you can connect your power directly to that driver. You just use the communication signals on here. The pump is always internally powered. The pump power supply can deliver up to 12 volt 8 amp. If you run internal power on the stepper motor, just be careful that you remember that you share the power supply with the pump. So you have to balance them out. Okay, and that is the external motor controller. Flushing is probably the most important and critical aspects of the entire EDM process. Through rod flushing will drastically increase your productivity and decrease rod wear. It will also increase your cutting speed. Second to that is side flushing and then submerged flushing. You can obviously also do a combination. You can flush from the side submerged while flushing through the core as well. That is the best of all three worlds. To make this easier, we supply this flush ring mag base that fits to the bottom of our EDM head. You can basically screw on there. This allows you to either supply dielectric through a side port and drain it through the other port to make sure that your area is clean, as dry as possible. So you don't have to have a big tub or area where the dielectric can spill. Or you can use it, block this side off and use it to drain the through electrode dielectric, drain that out to one side. This is one of our units. And the other most unique feature is our through rod flushing. The rod fits basically in this little sleeve. So you insert the rod through in the sleeve. There's a little compression gland in there, and this locks your rod in, and you just attach that to your pump connection. Obviously, since we're supplying 2 of these adapters, we want you to be able to use both at the same time. So we will also be shipping this T-piece with Parker connectors. And on this side, which is a standard pneumatic connector, where you can connect the 8mm hose to. And lastly, to extend your range of rods to hold in the EDM head, we give you the option of having a third clamp. Inside this unit there's already one clamp located over here, one clamp at the top. This gives you the option to add another clamp. For rods thicker than 1.5mm, this isn't really necessary, but for thinner rods this is critical. The third clamp also serves to hold the flushing tube at the top. Since there's a clamp in there as well, it will feed the flushing tube directly down into the unit as needed, and only when the flushing tube is inside the unit will it start lowering the third clamp into the unit till the end of the rod has been reached. Okay. The third clamp also attaches directly to the unit and runs in combination with the first clamp inside the unit already. For the last part of this section, I just wanted to go through some of the strange items that may have appeared in my demonstration videos. Firstly, here at the back we have my dielectric waste tank. I just made a quick setup just so everything can stay relatively dry. Just a plastic grid, I cable tied and hot glued onto a polyethylene tub. This just helped for the dielectric to flush through, and there's no puddles on my table or anything like that. This was also one of my main causes of having a hole that sparked a little bit oval, because this whole thing is extremely floppy. Secondly, there's this horrible looking clamp of mine. This I made from a hinge and an L shape for beams, for roof beams. This wasn't supposed to be pretty, it was supposed to be functional. My whole goal with making a jig like this is to prove that the platform is accurate enough. You just need some way to fix it and some way to adjust the angle and line everything up. And if you want to have to go bare bones like this, you can. There's nothing stopping you. The nice feature of this is that you can actually adjust your angle. The spring is just to take most of the slack out of it because the hinge rattles a little bit. And then lastly, this thing is a little bit prettier, but still very, very backyard. This is my rotor head. And obviously this rotor head will not be shipping with any of the units. This is just my example of something that can be built by basically any maker. It's just a normal drill chuck. That's a little motor I stripped out of an old printer. A couple of off-cut pieces of material, a little pluggy, and this clear casing. Some may recognize this as that is the case that your GoPro actually arrives in, your clear display case. One critical thing about this is if you supply power to your workpiece and your workpiece is clamped in the chuck, do not ever supply it through a clamp that runs through a bearing to the shaft. Supply directly onto the shaft. Otherwise that little spark will destroy your bearings very, very quickly. So all I did here is I have a big beefy brush, just screwed to a brass plate, of a brass plate, put some pressure on it on the back of the brass shaft, and the brass shaft goes directly into my chuck. So no matter what, I never lose contact with my clamp. And that's basically it. Okay, this concludes the final part of our review series. Thank you for watching. Next, we'll run the machine. Bye.